Marvin Chassan Marvin Degas, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When are we doing Shabbos together? That's the question.
No, never. Okay. Let's continue. Let's begin. We're going to learn today Kuf Sadi. Siman Kuf Sadi is Kesamim. We began last year. We learned about Siman Kuf Pei Gimel, which was all the dinim of the deraisa. We mentioned very clearly that in general the way that things work is there are a bunch of conditions for a woman to be tamim midaraisa. But of course, at the end of the day, however you're going to explain the lack of hargashahs nowadays, the woman is not going to have a hargashah, but she's still going to be tamei daraisa. The basic understanding that we explained is that once she's going to have her flow, that's going to fulfill the condition of the daraisas. Whether it's a siman, whether it's a siba, we spoke at length. Regardless of the lumbus, let's not get confused that when a woman has her period, she is tamei daraisa. That is not up for discussion. What is called a woman having her period? If someone would hear that question, they would think that's quite odd when she has her period. But we know that in the world of birth control, in the world of spotting and staining and all these other things, it is a bit of a question. It's not something that we're really going to see sourced inside. Something that we're going to have to just sort of get the feeling for over time. So basically, that is Siman Kuf Pei Gimel, that is hargashahs, that is a din deraisa. So straight from Kuf Pei Gimel, we go into Kuf Sadi. We go into Kuf Sadi, and the first thing that we're met with is the Chumas Hadeshin. The Chumas Hadeshin, which seemingly segues perfectly off of Siman Kuf Pei Gimel, is a woman who has a hargashah, a woman who feels that blood is coming out of her, or her niftach mekaira, or she feels her makar opening, or she feels her body shaking. V'nims ubadka, she does a bedikah, and she doesn't find any blood. What's the story? Lamaisa, what comes out is she is tameo, even though she found no dam. Why? Because of the hargashah. And the $1 million question that we have to get with is, based off of the fact that we just finished discussing that hargashahs are not so common nowadays, what is the lamaisa? If a woman nowadays says she has hargashah, what does she do? A woman calls up, she just gets married, she's more in tune with what's going on inside her body. She says she feels something. What's the story? So seemingly after learning this figure, what should come out? She has to do a bedikah. She has to check. And if she finds dam, she's tamei. If she doesn't find dam, she's tar. That's what it would come. That's what seemingly would come out of the sugya. The question is, number one, does she have to do a bedikah? Maybe we could just let her check her underwear. Perhaps we have to figure whether that out. And furthermore, even if she checks v'loy matzah klum, she doesn't see anything there. Are we actually going to be mitameh her? That is the $1 million question. Before we get there, let's be makdim with, once we're learning Kesamim, once we're in the world of Derabanan, what happens if she loses a kesem? She loses a kesem. What does that mean? She loses a kesem. That means she had a pair of underwear, there's a kesem on it, it's a pair of white underwear, she looks at it, the stain is a larger stain, is it the size of a gris? We don't even know what a gris means yet. We're starting to learn in Sifhei, but the stain is the size of a gris, it's the size of, I don't know, a nickel, a penny or something. It's bigger than that. She says, I don't know what this is. She asks her husband says, okay, I'm going to show it to Arav. She puts it on the side, and it goes missing. Where'd it go? I don't know. Maybe the cleaner lady threw it in the laundry. Maybe someone put it in the laundry. It's no longer there. What do we do? What do we do right now? What do we do? So before we get to the text on this shayla, in Mitzias, often we can get out of the shayla. Because if we go into the text, it seems like it's a bit of a machlekes. There's a Shalom Mesha that comes along and says, Roiv of the times, she's going to be Tameh, so maybe we should go Basa the Roiv. Lamaisa, there's a Chachmaz Adam, Sefer Marakayin, the Kitzur Sefer comes along and says the same. Then no, it's a Safek D'Rabbanan. No, we can be Mekel, Kesamim, Shaimim, V'toilin, Lahakel. But before we get to there, in the Mitzias, often it's not a Shalom. Why not? Because let's have a conversation and figure out what is this stain. She says there's a stain. And she doesn't know, so wants to show it to the Rav. So let's ask some questions. Was it red? So if the story is freshly married, doesn't know anything, but you looked, right? You saw the white garment with something on it. What did you see? So usually it takes a few questions to get into what's going on over here, but often, oh no, I don't know, it looked like some brown splotch over there. Mamish wasn't red? No, I don't know, but they told me I should ask all shaylas. So now you're already saying, now, if this was a bedikah, let's remind ourselves. Would we be so liberal? Of course not. Bedikah, we know one dot is red. One dot is tummy, which we have to overemphasize. On a bedikah, you can't just say, it looks brown and throw it out. If there's one teeny little dot inside that brown, a little dot of red, and I keep on saying brown as if it's pasha, we have to discuss browns also. Who said brown, right? You all learned the Gemara. Noitel admimos is tameh. Is it brown noitel admimos? Think so. Okay, so we're going to have to get there. But on a kesem, which we're saying is that they're abanon, often you'll have a conversation and she'll say, no, it looked brown to me, but, I'm supposed to ask a shayla. Or she'll say, it was, if she's not mamish newly married, you say, did you ever ask a similar shayla to the Rav? She'll say, yeah, it's always tahar. But I figured I should just ask, which is a very normal, classic, common scenario that she feels she should check, and she probably should check. But in there, when it would be this level of safek, that itself would be another reason to be mekel. But halach l'maisa, even if not those things, there's a chachmas adam in Klal Kuf Yud Gimel Sif Chav Tes that says the chachmas adam that she is tahar because Kesamim Is Rabbanan, and this is a real safek Rabbanan lahaka. I'll just bring out the word safek Rabbanan. We have to always be very careful. What is a safek? There's different types of safek in Allah. There's something called a safek chesarin yediyah. There's something called a safek be'etzem. What is a safek? If I don't know if it's red, but the Rav knows it's red, is that a safek? It's not a safek. It's a safek chesarin yediyah. It's a safek shait in the words of the Paiskim. So go ask the Rav. If I don't have it, maybe now no one in the world could ever know. So there's going to be different levels. Let's just be careful before we throw out safek derabanan lahaka. Okay, so let's get back to our shayla, and let's try to figure out that the Chumas Hadeshin. Okay, so what happens? A woman says she felt something. What's the story? So you all learned to sugya. What I'm going to do right now is probably just to put in order everything that you saw. We saw the Shulchan Aruch. What's the lashon of Shulchan Aruch? Yesh Oimrim, like the Chumas Hadeshin. Yesh Misha Aimer, let me be particular. The Torah Shlamim, which you all saw in Sifkat and Beis, says, what's the lashon Yesh Misha Aimer? Even though there's no one that argues, or I shouldn't say even though, because there's no one that argues, Yesh Misha Aimer, this is the Chumas Hadeshin, but there's no one that argues, and that is the Psak Halacha. Ramay Shafayinstein in the Tshuva Yerdech, L'Galatzim Yitzayin is Ches, says, less man de polygalzeh. I'm reading off the paper, don't worry, I'm not, halavai. If you want, I can give you the Marmakim afterwards. Less man de polygalzeh. The Shla, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, they all say the same thing. It's a Chumas Hadeshin. You have to be machmir. Now, in what case do you have to be machmir? We're going to get to in a moment. Let's just go in order. Number one is, are we pasting like the Chumas Hadeshin? It seems to be yes. But you also already in the Beis Yosef, you also already in the Darkei Moshe, that they pointed out that the Chumas Hadeshin is not so pashit. Lol kol kach bar comes along with Yaakov Emden, the Yavitz, Chelik Beis, Siman Hey. He says no, he paskins actually like the Radvaz, believe it or not. He paskins like the Radvaz, connected the Chumas Hadeshin. Niddah Yehuda comes along, and Niddah Yehuda says, yes, she's Tamei, but it's only a psak. It's only a psak misafik. It's a suffik, and therefore we're already starting to get the feeling that this is a bit more watered down. When it really starts, when the sugya really opens up, is when we start understanding what type of hargashah are we talking about over here. What do I mean? If we lived in the world of Chazal, we lived in the world of real hargashah. What type of hargashah? Meaning, is this also by hargashah nizdazeya kol gufa? What do the Chumas Hadeshin say? Niftach pi hamakar. What about nizdazeya kol gufa? Already is a machlaikas, and already there are chashulchan and chachmasadim say no, there's no Chumas Hadeshin. When we go further, what's the next level of hargashah? Zivas davarlach. We already learned that the whole invention of zivas davarlach is not simple. Is already even a real zivas davarlach is not pashut, whether that is a hargashah daraisa. Over here, with regard to the Chumas Hadeshin, when I say the Chumas Hadeshin, again, let's be clear. That means she felt it, she checked, she saw nothing. Will the din of the Chumas Hadeshin apply that she is Tameya? Says Chasam Sefer Aruch HaShulchan, no, zivas davarlach is not enough. We'll use that word of hargashah to say that she's going to be Tamei, barring if she did not find anything. And therefore, what does it seem like? It sounds like there's a bit of makom to be makel, but when the woman calls up and she says, I felt something come out of me, I felt a zivas daralach, it sounds like, it would seem like she still has to do a bedikah, number one. And if she does a bedikah and finds nothing, what does it sound like? We're not sure. It sounds like there's yesh makom lahakol, we would say it that way. Okay. Lamaisa, everyone can look in the Sefer Marakayin, he says over there, that what happens if she doesn't do a bedikah? Good. Let's say she doesn't do a bedikah. You saw all those wonderful cases in Pesach Tshuva. She's up in the women's section, this and that. She doesn't do a bedikah. And 10 hours later, loy matzah klum. What happens now? Now for sure she'll be tar. L'maisa or svarim that right, not that way. We'll leave it at that. But now let's just go all the way. Let's dive all the way in once we're here. Tachlis, does she have to do a bedikah or not? It would sound like yes. It would sound like yes, she has to do a bedikah. But really what this is totally on, we'll make it a machlekes, the Sidrei Taira versus the Chasam Sofer, is that what is the longest, what is the understanding of the Trumas Hadeshin? What's the understanding over here? Says the Sidrei Taira, you know what you're doing? What does the Trumas Hadeshin mean? You have hargashah, do a bedikah, and see what's going on. Says the Sidrei Taira, whenever you have a hargashah, now you need to have a raya that there wasn't dam. That's the way the Sidrei Taira says it. Says the Chasam Sofer, no, you don't need a raya that there wasn't dam. You need a taliyah to be toile the hargashah. And as you can understand, that's miles apart from each other. If you need a raya, like the Sidrei Taira says, that there was no dam, if you didn't check, if you find nothing, in all these scenarios, I don't care, Zivas Tavalach is a shayla. Nowadays we're not sure, but all of these shaylas and not sures, we're playing with fire, it would sound like she's tameh. Whereas if we go with the Chasam Sofer that we need a tliyah, obviously it's going to be very, very, what's a tliyah? Tliyah means that there's something to hang it on, literally. Tolui is hanging. So that we could attribute...
So that check right away?
All of these, everything that we're discussing really can be boiled down to this machlekes. Meaning, we saw you have to check right away. We saw if you don't check right away, it gets into a little more of a suffix. We're discussing now that Zivas Davralach gets into a bit more of a suffix.
You can never have a riot though. Right, what's a riot there's no dam? Maybe you fell out and got lost. How can you have a riot that you don't have dam?
Bedikah. That's good for what the Sidrei Taira says. You have to do a bedikah right away.
Right away.
Yeah.
I thought there was a chashash that maybe Taka got lost.
That's how you're talking.
That's Zog to Chumas Hadeshin, but Kollel Matzah Klum Tameya.
Right.
Tameya. Cause you need to have a reason to say you're tar. That's good for what the Sidrei Taira is explaining.
You're never tar. So there's never a way to do a riot.
You read the Shulchan Aruch, and what is it? You just explain. That's the Shulchan Aruch says. Hargashah with
bedikah. So there's no way to be tar.
No, if you found other marais in all the cases in the Pesach Tshuva and everywhere else, if she sees something and you can say, what you felt come out of you was there.
That's not a riot.
That's a raya that it wasn't down. Of course, that's a raya.
That's considered a riot?
That's a raya. The taliyah is going to be if you don't have a raya, but we have some way of explaining what happened over here. It's very different. No, what's bothering you?
Those riots don't sound like riots. Those riots sound like the taliyah, that there's a way to get at it. Saying maybe you don't have a riot. This is the dam that came out.
Right, just because there was Maris tires, that means that the hargashah she fought.
So say better. Meaning you saw on the Pesach Tshuva the case. You saw this case. What was the case you saw? You saw H in a balak. This was the case that the Pesach Tshuva brought down to bring in this machlekes, and he said this Chasam Sofer over there. That what's the nekuda? Can we say that what was there was this H in a balak or not? That's cool for this nekuda.
That's kind of riot, man.
Correct. I mean, the Chasam Sofer will be makel.
Right, but I don't know what a riot would be. That's what I'm trying to think.
Lahakel. If you do a
When's there a case you could prove to me that there's no dam? And like Dovi's saying, if you check right away there's no dam, maybe it got cleaned up. So it's not a riot either.
That's why the Chumas Hadeshin says she's to
So
me.
that's what I'm saying. So every single case you're automatically dam. Because even if you check right away and you don't find dam, you're tar.
In the world of the Chumas Hadeshin,
You'll never have a riot. You'll only
in the world of the Chumas Hadeshin, in the world of a real hargashah, in a real bedikah, v'loy matzah klum, you're tameya. If you're matzah, then it's going to be different. If on the bedikah you're matzah.
Matzah what?
Matzah something.
Tar.
Tar.
Yeah, meaning not matzah. You're all coming along with the tzli of an H.A. Badak. That's very different. That's not that. I started with everything clean. I did a bedikah, and I found that this is what came out of me, and it wasn't dam. That's something very different than H.A. Badak. H.A. Badak, or this garment that's filthy, is now that I did the bedikah. Now I don't know, is it A or is it B? That's a tzliya, correct. But if I started with it clean and I did a bedikah and a matzah that it was something, that's going to be a different case. Right. That's now you're right. You're all saying 99% of the time it's going to be the Chuvas Hadesh's case. I agree with you. Either it's going to be dam or it's going to be nothing, and then we say it's loss. That's why the Chuvas Hadesh comes along, says there's something daraisa, and you have to be machmir. You're all just explaining the Chuvas Hadesh. But one second. Let's just take this next level. Now first of all, I keep on saying Sidrei Taira. I think I don't know why I have written it's the Chavas Das, right? What is it? It's Chavas Das. I don't know why I've written down here Sidrei Taira. It's a mistake. The Pislei Tshuva quotes a Chavas Das, correct? It's a mistake here. Excuse me. That's what he's talking about.
That's what he's talking about. What?
He's talking about we're starting at the top, and now we have to get to Zivas Avrach. This Yisoidistic Machlekes is going to apply in the world of the Chuvas Hadesh, which is in what? The Chuvas Hadesh's case, which is in Psichas B'Yamakar. Correct. Now, we now have to take this and take it level by level. That's Psichas B'Yamakar. This is a Kol Gufa, Zivas Darlach, Safik Zivas Darlach, underwear, do we need to do a bedikah? That's really where we're going over here. And Lamaisa, or the first case we'll discuss is, let's say she didn't do a bedikah. If she didn't do a bedikah, whatever the reason is. So the Fidach Sam Sefer, are we going to have what to be toilet on? The answer is yeah. She'll, at the end of the day, she looks at her underwear, she sees there some sort of discharge over there, so we could simply say A is B and B is A, and everything is fine. But Lafi the Chavas Das, you saw in the Pislei Tshuva, it's pretty shver. Correct? That was the case of the Pislei Tshuva. That's going to be pretty shver. Lamaisa, the Shevet HaLevi, really coming from its Pharisee, already comes along and says that this whole nikuda that I might have gotten lost is not existent in the world of underwear. That's the way the Shevet HaLevi is coming from its Pharisee. What's this whole detail that I might have gotten lost? That meant she's wearing a long tunic and something fell out of her and we don't know what it is, and she didn't look. And now 10 hours later, it's not there. Oh, so maybe it was down when it got lost. But if there's something there the entire time, so whatever came out of her is there. So already says the Shevet HaLevi that his lashon is, it's considered a bedikah tidira. It's ki'ilu, you're always being baidek, and therefore there would be makom to be makel if b'diavad one did not do a bedikah.
Which he looks at as underwear as a mamash bedikah.
His lashon is that obviously can't mean a real bedikah because lamaisa didn't go ba'isei makom.
And what is it? It's a bedikah
and now we'll be able to.
Never gotten lost.
Correct. So now, good. So what does it help us?
What happened? She
So now, and you saw what?
Nothing.
Oh, so first of all, it helps us for the first 50% of the cases. When you find Mara Torah 10 hours later,
right,
then we'll be able to be toilet all of a
She
sudden.
found nothing.
So if she found nothing, so far we don't have a way to be toilet. You're right, correct. If she says that at 9 o'clock in the morning I felt something.
Why would that record that when it's mother?
Why?
Because the only side that was usher was because maybe it was Tommy and got lost, but there's no time that got lost.
Yeah,
but if
something bad that came out.
yes.
And
Oh,
nothing
so
came
the
out.
answer, very good.
What?
Maybe nothing came out.
It's not possible. We said it.
Open up, nothing came out.
What?
No, there's no such thing. There's no such thing.
It was
Open
dried up. It
up.
was down tar, and now it's not there.
But again, just like in the Chumas Hadeshin's world, if you did a real bedikah, v'loy matzah klum, you're tamei. So this can't be better than that. This is, she did a real bedikah, v'loy matzah klum, l'chayr, she's tamei.
If you blow him out to clump 10 hours later, so maybe it dried up.
The only reason why we say the chumrah like that is
We said that in Mr. Shuva, that if you check and 10 hours later you look, and it's not there, it's dried up.
Maybe. Again,
That
but the problem is because it's a Safik D'Oraisa still.
That was Mr. Shuva, he said that case.
He's discussing that there was an H.A. Badak he's talking about. So there was already something to be told on. We don't necessarily have the same level of tzliya by us. We don't necessarily have the same level to do. But again, the next step of this game is that, not this game, but first of all, this is an interesting eitzah that some Rabbanim want to say right now. They say that if you're going to wear black, very dark undergarments, you're going to run into an issue. Why? Because of this. Because if she's going to have this hargashah at 9 o'clock in the morning, and later on in the day, you're now going to see something there, and you're not going to know what it is, because it's something very dark, so then you're going to have to be metama her al safek de'oraisa that might have been a hargashah. So they say, but if you're going to wear a light colored, which that's the next sugya, we're going to have to discuss what's called light and what's called dark. But if you're going to wear a light colored, it will save you. We don't know yet why, because it'll make it a kesem. Because there's no gezeira of someone selling color, we have to get to. But it will at least allow you to be mevayer on the daraisa level what it is. That is, someone to give that eitzah. Whether that's going to come back to bite us when we learn about what's called colored garments, we're going to have to get to. But the real truth is that already the Chazon Ish already writes. He doesn't write. Excuse me, Archas Rabbeinu, which is a storybook based on everything the Chazon Ish said. And Rav Chaim Kanievsky says b'shem the Chazon Ish. His words are, and this really goes back to what we spoke about last week. Nashim didan einon yoidos ma zeh hargashah is psichas hamakar ve'ein lahachmir. Ve'ein lahachmir v'chein heter oid uvda itzel. There was a story, and he was mekel. So the real truth is, even when she says, "Yeah, I felt something come out of me," the answer is, "No, you didn't." The answer is, you felt what is outside your body, and therefore the answer is, on this one case that we're still unsure about. Again, we really have 7 other reasons that we could be mekel.
Still we can wear black.
Meaning,
She can wear black.
yeah, so maybe when we come back, if that's going to be a discussion, that won't bother us. But maybe it will help. Some Rabbanim will say it will help us a little bit more of a level of beer. But let's just understand. Is the Chuvas Hadesh in the Psak Halacha? Answer is yes. The Shulchan Aruch, Teres Shlomo and Ramosha says, less man de polik. We know the truth is, the Beis Yosef already said it's not pashit, and the Yavitz already said it's not pashit. And that's on a real hargashah. If it's on the next level of hargashah, then it comes along other paiskim and they say they're not true. When it's on the Psivas Avralach, which whole thing is a shayla of its hargashah, and comes on the hargashah, and Chachamim say over here, you don't have to worry about it. You don't certainly have to worry about it. And the fact she's wearing underwear, and therefore 99% of the time, even if she says she feels something, what's she going to see when she looks down at the end of the day? She's going to see something there. The case is that she's going to say she felt something, it's going to be mamish nothing. If you think about it, Metzias, which I think we spoke with some of the Chavri here, the Badei Shulchan already asks the Kasha, what, it disappeared? Things don't disappear. If there was something there, it dried up, and you see it's a little dried up hardness over there, but you see that it's not dam. So all of those cases, there's plenty of reason. And even if all of that fails, then, and you're still worried, Lamaisa, we know the women don't really have hargashas. But if you're still nervous, the eitzah is, as you already all saw, there's something called being muchzik. Muchzik, you create a chazaka. Chazaka, we all know, works on deraisa. So what if a woman gets married and 3 times she says, I felt something come out, and let's say 3 times she actually checks around her. Let's not go extreme to tell her to do a bedikah. Why not? We're going to have to get to, you didn't see it, it's in Kuf Beidal, it's a Gemara that actually says, Kol amar be bedikahis hareze mishubachas. You should do many bedikahs. And everyone here is wondering what the Rabbanim always tell us, don't do bedikahs. Which we're going to have to explain that the reason, of course, is going to be, in Mitzias, the reason it's going to be is because women are drier and they cause themselves whatever. In other reasons, it's going to be is because you're just causing agmas nefesh. But the reason is, where Moshe already writes, any time, this is a nice side we're going to have to come back to, any time, even when a Rav has to say you're tummy, why are you tummy? Is it tummy mikayach vadai or tummy mikayach safek? You all know the answer to this question because you all learned the Gemara. Even if it's mamish red, it's still mikayach safek. Why?
Because you don't know if it's the red that's in the top.
Bingo. Zakra Moshe, the rule of Reisa Efshel of Rure, anytime we're not sure about something in Allah, you have a chiyuv, an obligation to check into it. Zakra Moshe, that's only if you could check into it on the Vadai level. If you're going to look into something and then have to be machmir misafek, there's no din of Reis Hashafshel of Rurei, says Ramesha. And because all the times we're going to end up being Mekel is only going to be Mikayach Safek, because we don't know what the Chamishim Minei Damim are, and the Gemara already was geyser on it. Therefore, that's one of the reasons why the klal of extra bedikas doesn't apply nowadays, and therefore don't do bedikas. Fine. But let's say over here, a woman says she feels a thing, so what do? We tell her to look at her underwear. 3 times she looks down, and what does she see? 3 times she looks down, and she sees that it's, Mara Leveino, and Lecha, and all the wonderful discharges that are coming out of a woman's body. Says, it says, it says, Moshe Feinstein. What's the story? She has a chazaka. I think you already saw an earlier Bakar that I quoted. I think the Pesach Tshuva already mentioned this idea in the beginning of the Siman. No? I'm looking at any blank faces. Didn't the Pesach Tshuva already mention the concept? Yeah? Yeah, very good. That you're muhsuk, and once you're muhsuk, you don't have to worry about it. So the only question here really is going to be in the what?
The other way, she feels and she sees down 3 times.
That's also true, but that's never going to happen. The only question really is going to be is that when all dust settles, should the kala teachers be teaching the kalos to look when they have this feeling? That's really what everything boils down to right now. Why? Once it happens, mevanashach. They weren't taught anything. So if she calls right away, okay, now we have the whole discussion we just had right now, and could be, if she says I felt something, could be, we should tell her, Lamaisa, go to the bathroom, look at your underwear, and make sure that what's there is not blood, and it's always going to be the story, and therefore you could sleep well at night. Could be. But should she have this on her mind? Should the Kala teachers be taught, tell a woman you're getting married, all the halachas. So one of the things is, by the way, if you ever have hargashah, what do? You go and you do bedikah, or maybe better, they should tell them that 3 times go and do bedikah, or 3 times go check your underwear, and then don't worry about it. Should they be taught that? So in all the dust settles, what does Elam say?
No.
What's the minhag Elam? Does anyone know? The Kala teachers do not teach this. The Kala teachers do not teach. From my limited understanding, I don't believe the Kala teachers teach this. And now we understand it. Meaning, if you just learned Kufsadi Sivale, if the Shulchan Aruch Lepisach Tshuva Shvera, you're not teaching this halacha. It's a Safik Daraisa. But once we learn Kuf Bei Gimel, we understand the hargashah is okay. Filter that down to the Maisa, and then once we learn within the Tshuva Sadesh, do we pass it like him, and do we pass it by different hargashas, and is it's going to be, and what's they going to find, and they're wearing underwear, and they're going to see what's going on there, and at the end of the day, they'll end up seeing whether there was something there or not. So l'chayr, that's where it comes from, that they do not teach this halacha to them, and kol ze mistaver, and we can move on from Sif Aleph. Before we move on to, it's going to be more of Hakdam and Sif Hey, Sif Beis Gimel and Dalid, you also on side. There's not really much that I'd like to add. I don't believe anyone is marrying a katana, so the whole halacha of katana not so relevant right now. Is there any questions on Sif Aleph before we go? It's going to be more of Hakdama to Sif Hey. We're just going to bring out the big shayla over here. Anyone? Once, twice, thrice? Okay, let's move on. Great. Sif Hey. So you started learning Sif Hey, and really Sif Hey, what I'm saying here is really the I'm not going to say the whole Yesod. I'm going to try not to say the whole Yesod. I'm going to try to hold back, because I'd rather you see it inside with the rayas. Is what is this story with Kesamim? So let's trace it back. You already saw the Mishnah. Stayed in the Mishnah, Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva. When it comes to Rabbi Akiva, I saw down. The conversation that Rabbi Akiva has with this woman is nothing short of, we'll use the word unique. I don't want to say strange. It's unique. Does everyone agree it's a unique conversation? It almost sounds like it came out of 2022 of some rabbi's office that maybe one should not be in. Did you see dam? You have a makkah. It's healed. Maybe the makkah got better. Maybe not. Kesamim Is Frakta Gemara. Ay Tanya. Shem Lachmir. So the answer is the Gemara. The whole invention of Kesamim is a chumrah, of course, because on a deraisa level she's tahar. But now we make tumah as a din derabanan of Kesamim. But now Kesamim Shaymin Lahakil, and that's going to be something that we're going to have to come back and back again, figuring out what does it mean Kesamim Shaymin Lahakil. As you'll start thinking and realizing, the question that we ended off with last year, the question of Vadai Migufa, whether we have to be concerned, is really going to boil down to this question right now. Because, what did we explain last time? Blood comes out of a woman. Is she tummy deraisa? Answer is no. Why not? No hargashah. Okay, but now it's sitting right here on her underwear. We know it came from her, and it's on something colored. So is she tahar or tameh? You're going to learn the sif yet. She's going to be tahar. It's the size. It's less than a sheer grist. Is she going to be tahar or tameh? She's going to be tahar. Why? Why is she tahar? Very good. We need to understand it. So this is already, the Chakira already is brought down. There's going to be many rayos to both sides over here, but I have over here the Tov Tam Vadas is the one that spells out the two studim the best, but really everyone brings it down. The question is, what's the yisoid of Kesamim? Is it a gezira and loy gazru on colored, loy gazru on less than a gris, loy gazru on inam makabel tama? And if it's loy gazru, do we need to turn on our brain? No. Loy gazru, it's not exact. Or is it a taliyah? Taliyah. What does that mean? We could be Tyler, we can explain what happened is this. We can explain that the blood on the sheet was from a bug. We didn't see a bug. No, we paskin, even if you didn't see a bug, maybe there was a bug. There's no bugs. Doesn't make a difference. But at least we have an explanation. But I said a sheet for a reason. But now when it's on her underwear, are there bugs inside her underwear? I don't think so. That doesn't even sound like that's any level of mistaver. You don't have to see a bug, but that sounds ridiculous. Or better, she wipes herself with a piece of toilet paper. Were there any bugs anywhere? No. So where would the tzliya be? Where could we hang this on and explain, this isn't dam niddah? This makes no sense. Furthermore, what size are we going to be mitayah? We share gris. Maybe, is it nowadays bugs? Who cares how big the bugs were bisman chazal? Nowadays, how big is a bug? If the whole explanation is it goes by what is a gris, great, so let's see what a gris is. And then be toilet on that. And this is a very extreme shayla because bugs nowadays are smaller. That's already mavur in the paiskim, as you're going to see. The bugs nowadays are definitely smaller. Without fully answering this question, there's an idea in all of Meseches Niddah, which corresponds to Hilches Niddah, which really comes up over here in Kesamim Sefer, which is a very interesting idea. Is that you already started seeing that there are certain parts of Meseches Niddah that we say that's Tumah V'Tayra. That's Tumah V'Tayra. That's not a din in Niddah L'Bayla. That's din in Tumah V'Tayra. What does that mean? That means that was Bisman Beis HaMikdash. When we had din Tumah V'Tayra, that's when it's relevant. But Bisman Hazeh, that's a different halachos. Does everything that made a woman tamei in the world of Beis HaMikdash, does that make her tamei L'Bayla? Is every Gemara of Tumah V'Tayra translatable into Hilchos Niddah that we're learning together or not? Now this is a question both lahachmir and lahakel. Why lahakel? Lahachmir we understand, right? Why lahakel? So let's go into our shayla, and this is basically how we're going to end, which is the Kesamim Sefer, because I want to leave it a little bit open-ended, because you didn't fully see Sif Hey, Vav, etc. So we're going to leave it a little bit open-ended over here. Says the Kesamim Sefer. Nowadays, we just said bugs are smaller. Bugs Bisman Chazal were larger. Wonderful. Tumah V'Tayra existed. Bisman Chazal does not exist nowadays. Says the Kesamim Sefer the following. Just trying to see if I have the actual lashon here to read. I do. I just don't know if I want to waste time finding it. Yeah, it's right here. Beautiful. Says the Kesamim Sefer. Tchilas Gziras Kesamim. Hoya. The beginning of the Gzira was Kishahaya Isekes B'Tayris. Okay. When there was Tumah V'Tayra, that's when they made this Gzira. Mitamana. Umimila, listen to this one. And this really is a massive yisoid in all Geziras D'Rabbanan. Maybe we'll try to give one nafkamina afterwards. Mitamana. Umimila Nesar Nami L'Bayla. Once they made a Gezira, what are they geyser? They geyser, this woman is Tameh. So she's Tameh L'Bayla as well. Va'achshov Nami Shebatlu Ta'iris. Nowadays there's no din Tumah V'Tayra, there's no Beis HaMikdash. Mikol Makom Dover Shenesar B'Minyan. Something that was made ulcer, you can't get rid of that. Ubezeh Osi Shapir. Now it's beautiful, says the Kesamim Sefer. That which we need to be inan sheer gris. Why? And he explains beautifully. Everyone understands already. Even though nowadays we don't have such bugs, Kesamim Is. Everything goes back to the original Gezerah. If the whole reason why she's Tamei nowadays is because they made her Tamei Bisman Beis HaMikdash, so everything goes with that which they made Tamei then. She'em Achil is Gadol Kigris, and because there were these large bugs. I forgot to like Achshav Kaigavna. Come on, Achshav Belav Achiyaylan Latar Kolek Samrak Shev Shalatir Mashin is a minute Rishon Shir Katal Lanesim Yoilam. Everyone understand? Beautiful. Let me say it over one more time. Why do Kesamim still exist? Doesn't make any sense. As you're going to see, the whole Gezerah was a Gezerah Atu Tumah V'Tayra. The Gezerah was Atu Tumah V'Tayra. If we have no Tumah V'Tayra, we should have no more Gezerah. Nafal Yisoid, Nafal Binyan. Batal Atam, Batal HaGezerah. Says the Chasam Sofer, no, that's not the way it works. Since there's no larger Beis HaMikdash to get rid of the Tumah L'Bayla, it still exists. But at what shear? We can't now go and say, but wait, we should be machmir because the bugs are smaller nowadays. Who cares? The whole Gezerah is only still in existence because of what was back then. So now you're seeing how far this loy gazru or gazru applies. Everyone saying, everyone understands? It's almost like, we're being toilet, we're saying it came from the bug. But a bug that existed 2,000 years ago. Even though those bugs don't exist right now. But because Bisman Chazal, there could have been a bug. And there could have been something to be toilet, and that's where the whole Gezerah came from. Therefore, those rules will still apply. That is how the Chassam Sefer says. Ramesh Netshuva says the same thing. Ramesh Netshuva says the same thing. That in the Yisoid of the Gezerah is going to be the same thing. That is the Psak Mekubal. The Darkei Tshuva says the same thing. Says the Darkei Tshuva. V'no Gubal Lihoyra L'Haka B'Chogam Yishar Shiurim K'She'osru Chachamim Zechreinoi Levracha. Now this is going to be the psicha. This is going to open us up to all of what you're about to learn. Now you understand the shear. Again, I don't know if you saw all the background I just said, but now you know where it came from. Now you understand in the world of Gezerahs how it could make sense. And therefore, now we have to see every level what would have been Bisman Chazal and translate that in to nowadays. But it still has to work, and this is a very important detail. It has to work Bisman Chazal. If something would not have worked Bisman Chazal, for example, just something we spoke about before, it's a not lamaistic example, so it's easier to understand sometimes. The Rambam says, a kesem al gufa is tamei b'mashu. Why? Because the kol gufa baduk me'machelis. Because there's no bugs in your body, says the Rambam. And therefore any amount of blood we have to say is dam niddah, and therefore you're going to be tamei. So now, even though we're learning some has to do with what was around Bisman Chazal, it can't be better than Bisman Chazal. So if the body is clean, the body is clean. Now let's translate that into something lemaisa. That everyone's going to agree to. But everyone's going to agree to. There's no bugs flying around inside our body. So therefore, if we know for sure a dam came straight from Oisei Makoim, you're not going to have the rules of Kesamim. Did I just say that anytime something's going to be on underwear or toilet paper, you're not going to have rules of Kesamim? No. Why not? Oisei Makom. The underwear is covering a little bit more than Oisei Makom. As we already spoke about last time, Ramesh the Tshuva already explains to us that the Sfasai in the area around the Gemara doesn't say that's Balik Me'Bachelis. But without understanding where this all came from, this all sounds like some crazy Tarir Shabal Peh, like Gazru, and don't ask any questions. But once we realized that it was a Gezerah, now we're just going within the Gezerah. When the Gezerah was made, what were the rules? Now we can understand how everything's going to filter out. And now we can come along and say, okay, now we have Dam and Tzali color, what's it going to be, etc., etc. That's the big Chakira, like Azar Tzliya. That's the Ramesh Nechsam Sefer. It proves us that it is a Tzliya and how the Tzliya is going to work. And the Mirz Hashem, as we go weiter in Kuf Sadi and said, hey, Vav, etc., all the way to the end, we're going to skip a little bit, but within all the cases, we'll be able to apply this rule. I think everyone should see the Chassam Sefer inside. It's one of those, if the whole Kifsadi is basically this Chacham Sefer, we should see it inside. So once you finish Sifhei, we'll give out aforementioned said Chacham Sefer. I would be remiss if I said if there are those who argue on the that don't go with the Chacham Sefer, and what we're going to have to see is that there's even a Shevet Alevi that's going to come along, which is very Lamaisa, very Bisman Hazeh, that's going to come along and say, no, we don't really go all the way with this Chacham Sefer, and the Shevet Alevi is going to want to maybe make Shiurim smaller or bigger. So as much as I'm saying Chacham Sefer, and I'm saying we're going Legazu, we're going to have to keep the balance, and each time have to rework what's going on.